Hello and welcome back to Chill Phil Gaming. I'm glad you found your way here. I don't know how you found your way here, but let me know what you think of the channel. We're still pretty new, we're still growing, but I'm glad you joined me, Phil, and my dog, Hash Brown, as we explore space together. Quick shout out. We're getting some good comments from you guys. I really appreciate it. Here are some that I really enjoyed. Beefy Means said, I'm not crying, simply beautiful and calming. Thank you so much for all you do and all you've done for others. God bless. Wow, that was awesome. Alano says, really enjoyed this, man. You for sure got the X factor. It's gonna be insane seeing your growth. Cheers, I sure hope so. And finally, Archie Plays says, great video. I really am happy to join you in your channel's journey. And I basically said, man, I hope you're right. I hope it grows. And he says, I don't need to hope. I already know it's gonna happen. And fam, that is really encouraging. That is really what I need. And that's really pertinent to kind of what I have in my head for today. And so let's go to space and let's check out the Cassini collision in 2017 right now. Okay, here we are. And here's what I love. First of all, I love the image, the angle of this simulation in Universe Sandbox. Cassini, you see this angle here. You see Cassini coming around to Saturn, and you see its path, and you can see the path disappear right here, and we're seeing that's probably Cassini's fate in this simulation. But Saturn has a lot going on with it, and so we're going to look at this. But I love this angle. I love that we're looking up at Cassini's, kind of looks like Cassini is careening around this edge here and into Saturn. We see Saturn's beautiful rings, and we see a lot of moons. And here's Enceladus, which we are going to talk about here in a second. And as we hit play, let's bring the sim speed down to about, we'll go a little faster. We'll go 1 minute a second. We can see things barely moving here at 1 minute a second. We see Cassini begin to come in as we read this. Cassini's collision with Saturn on September 15th, 2017. On that date, the world said goodbye to the Cassini spacecraft as it ended its historical mission with a final plunge into Saturn. During its 13 years orbiting Saturn, Cassini made a number of invaluable discoveries about the planet, its rings, and its moons. We now know the massive geysers covering the south polar region of the moon Enceladus, there it is, we're gonna look at that, shoot icy particles into space, forming most of Saturn's E-ring and hinting at a massive subsurface ocean. Well, that's pretty cool. And we now know that the surface of Titan, Saturn's biggest moon, shares a surprising number of characteristics with Earth, including dunes, mountain ranges, rivers, lakes, and seas. Very interesting. With its array of sophisticated instruments, Cassini watched as storms raged on Saturn and seasons changed. It discovered 8 new moons, provided insight into the behavior of its famous rings, and completely changed our understanding of its magnetosphere. Okay, so the mission here, this is interesting. The mission had been extended twice, and Cassini was in orbit 9 years longer than originally intended. With its fuel nearly gone, its course was intentionally set for disintegration in Saturn's atmosphere to prevent possible contamination of any of the moons. Ciao, Cassini. Thanks for your hard work. Okay, that's awesome. So let's look at Cassini's last moments here as we move time forward at, here we go, 12 minutes a second. We can see right down here. Things are beginning to move a little quicker. We zoom out and we see all of Saturn, all its moons. There's Titan, the biggest and most well-known. And now we find out, because of Cassini, that Titan has a lot of characteristics similar to Earth. Very interesting. Let's move in here. Cassini's getting close here now. And we're gonna click on Cassini. Okay, and now into Cassini. Here we go. And we're slowing down time a little bit so we don't just zoom right into Saturn. And we're seeing Cassini's last moments alive. And there's Cassini. And Cassini's gonna blow up in Saturn's atmosphere, yeah. So Cassini didn't even reach the surface of Saturn. It just burnt up in Saturn's atmosphere. Okay, interesting. So let's hop on Cassini. All right, so we started the simulation over again. We're zooming into Cassini. We're hopping on Cassini with this great feature in Universe Sandbox where you click on something, you get real close, and you click C, and now we're riding Cassini, and we're taking it for a ride into Saturn from Cassini's point of view. Okay, so obviously we're going an hour a second, so much quicker. If we turn it down to, you know, a second, so real time, we're not gonna see much change here. Right now we're at, here we go, we're at, you know, 1 second to 1 second. So, you know, we're going real slow here. So we're gonna kick up the time here to about about 6 minutes a second, 7, looks like 8, and we're coming in. And if you can imagine riding this thing in real life, that would be quite a sight right now, but you wouldn't be around for much longer. But we're seeing our trajectory. Here we go into Saturn, and we're burnt up. And we're grateful for Cassini's sacrifice. Ooh, we got some fireballs happening. Alrighty. And here we are. And so bringing back this simulation, and it talked about Enceladus. Here's Enceladus. And Enceladus is talking about the south polar region of Enceladus shoots out icy particles into space, forming most of Saturn's E-ring, which is super interesting. So we're zooming into Enceladus here. And look, even as we zoom in with Saturn behind it, we're see some dust and cloud, maybe some of that icy particles off of the south polar region of Enceladus, which they included in the simulation, which is pretty cool. So zooming in to Enceladus, you can see that. Now the E-ring, so the E-ring is actually in the simulation. It's hard to see, I believe, because there are some lighter rings even out in this area. See, Saturn, and even like planets like Jupiter has rings, but the rings are so light you can't see it with the naked eye. These are the rings that we are seeing when we look into a telescope at Saturn. We're not seeing the E-ring, we're not seeing the outer rings. But if we bring up a diagram,
12 seconds later.
Okay, this is a good diagram. Check this out. So here's Saturn. We see kind of the main rings. Here we go, A, B, C, D. Here is Enceladus, and look, the E-ring, we see all the way to Titan. The E-ring goes all the way to Titan. Titan's way past that even, and that's how far the picture goes. So that's how far the diagram goes. So the E-ring, and most of the E-ring, and look how big it is very light. As we can see in the picture, it's not very defined, but the E-ring, most of the E-ring is coming from this little guy here, Enceladus. Enceladus is making a big impact, which is very interesting to notice. Enceladus is one of the smaller moons compared to like some of these others, but it's making this big, it's leaving this big imprint, which is very cool, very cool. Okay, well that's interesting. We found out a lot about Enceladus thanks to our buddy Cassini. And then we also found out a lot about Titan. So let's zoom out here. Titan is way over here. I thought Titan was supposed to look like Earth. It's not really looking like it in the simulation. Let's hit C and let's get on Titan's surface. Does this look like Earth? No, I guess it doesn't look like Earth. It's saying it has a lot of features that Earth has, but we're not seeing this in the simulation. That's okay. But here's what I love about Cassini, and what Cassini teaches us maybe about ourselves, what Cassini might teach you about yourself is, I want to read this thing first, but here's what I found a little bit about Cassini. Okay, on the Wikipedia, there's a lot of information here, but here's what I want to focus on. This paragraph right here. Cassini's planners originally scheduled a mission of 4 years from June 2004 to May 2008. The mission was extended for another 2 years until September 2010, branded the Cassini Equinox mission. The mission was extended a second and final time with the Cassini Solstice mission, lasting another 7 years until September 15th, 2017, on which date Cassini was deorbited and burned up in Saturn's upper atmosphere. Okay, so here's what I love, is that Cassini, when Cassini was launched, they're like, this is what we have for you, Cassini. And Cassini continued to offer value, and they didn't count Cassini out. They continued to use Cassini, and Cassini proved to be useful for several more years. It was extended 2 times, the mission was. What this gets me thinking about, let's swipe this away, is Cassini, this little guy here, really offered scientists a lot. And sometimes we judge a book by its cover. Sometimes we get judged by our cover. One time I was a youth pastor, and this is, I haven't worked in a church since, but one time I did. And I was I was the high school age youth pastor, and there was another youth pastor focused on middle school, but that other youth pastor was kind of in charge of the youth ministry at this church. And I wasn't like the main voice, I was kind of the secondary voice. And then that pastor got a new job and went elsewhere. And so it was just me, and I felt like, hey, I think I'm ready. I think I'm ready to use my voice and to lead this organization in this particular area. And I basically came to the leadership of the church. And I said this, and they said to me, we don't think so. And that sucked. And I basically said, I'm not ready to crash into orbit. I'm not ready to be done. In fact, I'm ready to do more. I'm ready for you to give me more things to do. Maybe we can discover more things together. And I wanted more life, as Cassini got. And they said no. And I was hoping to not be counted out, and I was counted out. Basically was told, we don't think you're the right one for this ministry. And in about 2 or 3 months, both my wife and I, my wife worked there too, we were laid off at this church. That church is no longer in existence. But we were laid off, and that was a really hard day. And it was hard when I got that first answer, and then it was hard after as well. And it was not good. I was counted out. I was written off. Now, write-offs, like for taxes or your business, good things, right? But when we write off people, sometimes we're wrong. And sometimes we miss an opportunity for more life, for them to do more good. And I really feel like I could have done more good, but what happened was they wrote me off, and I said, maybe my voice isn't what needs to be heard right now. And I kind of went silent. And honestly, in hindsight, I'm glad I did. I learned a lot about myself. I felt like I learned a lot through my silence and through listening to others and not sharing my voice sometimes, and kind of growing in a different aspect. But what it got me to do was, a few years later, I started a podcast. It's in a similar vein as this YouTube channel, where I talk about kind of meaningful things. And the people who wrote me off really kind of missed out, because this podcast did really well. And this podcast got millions of downloads since 2016. And it's regular 130 or so episodes. Now we have about almost 2 million total downloads, and we're sponsored by BetterHelp and all that good stuff. So like, it's important not to count people out. And I'm glad they didn't count Cassini out. I'm glad they said, we find more meaning for you, Cassini, more use. And I wonder if there's a time in your life where you felt you were counted out, like you had more to give. And someone said, no, we don't want any more from you. And I'm sorry that happened. But what could that lead you to learn about yourself, and what could that motivate you to not prove them wrong, but prove yourself right? Not to show someone else, hey, you were wrong and look what I can do now, but like, no, I think, and believe in yourself. No, I think I have more to give, and to prove yourself right. And so that is something that I want you to think about, and that I hope that you find in yourself, that if someone writes you off, don't write yourself off. That's up to you. What you do next is up to you. And I hope it also helps you to go, I should not write other people off. Because I've done that before, and I've been wrong, and I've had to ask for forgiveness. I've had to repent from that, because that was wrong. And I should not write people off. Because who am I to say, you got nothing else to give? Like, you've done it all. We don't need anything else from you. Goodbye. And people just get hurt that way. You really do some damage to some people when you write people off like that. And so I would encourage you not to write people off, not to, in general, so yeah, specifically to people, but also a general group of people that you think, oh, they're wrong, or they're going about this all wrong, or, what do they know? They don't understand the things that I understand. Well, no, of course they don't, but you also don't understand the things that they understand. And so to write a general group of people off is also wrong. What could you instead hope for that group of people who maybe differ from you, but you want the best for them? you don't want to write them off. You want to choose to see what they have good that's going on, and maybe where you guys do align, and you can join them in something together. So that is what Cassini, the team who led Cassini, inspires me by. They did something incredible where they could have easily said, we're done with this mission. And they said, no, we think Cassini's got more. We're not going to write Cassini off, and we're going to believe that Cassini can provide us more. And we find out some valuable things about Saturn's moons and rings, and that is pretty cool. So that's what I want you to think about. We're going to watch Cassini's last entry here yet again. Let's change perspective here. Let's zoom out a little bit, and let's go from a slightly different perspective. And we're going to see this kind of happen from, let's go this angle. All right, I like this angle. So let's listen to some calming music as we see Cassini's last entry and kind of think about how, people have written us off, but that hasn't stopped us. We can go forward, and maybe how we've written people off, and we should not do that anymore. So here we go, Cassini's last flight. Here we go. And just like that. Friends, I hope this was useful today. Let me know. Send me a comment. Actually, I think YouTube rearranged. The comment section is now this way on this side of the page. I don't know. Wherever it is, leave me a comment. I would love to hear it. I'd love to feature more comments. And I really appreciate you here. I'm glad that you're here. I hope this was helpful and useful. Let me know. I will read those. You are worth it. I don't count you out. Thanks for not counting me out. A YouTube channel, especially a new one, is hard. It's easy for me to go, oh, it's not enough, it's not enough. But hey, we're not counting ourselves out. We're still going. So I'm glad that you're here too. And with that, until next time, keep it chill. Bye-bye.